Hey friends, Justin here. There's a lot of satellite communication SOS devices out on the market right now. I've been using the Garmin InReach for the last 3 years. I actually just checked in with my girlfriend right now as I'm out on a backcountry trip. And you guys ask me all the time whether I still like it. Do I still think it's the best SOS satellite communication device out there? And I'm gonna be upfront with you guys. I still think there's a lot of benefits to the Garmin InReach. I also think that there's a lot of misconception and misinformation out there, especially about the Garmin InReach Mini, as well as there's some negatives about the device as well. And I'm gonna talk about the things that I like, the things I dislike, things that have come up over the last 3 years of using the Garmin InReach Mini, as well as comparing the device to some other devices that are out on the market right now to really see whether it still is, in my opinion, the best device on the market. The first thing I want to talk about is something that I see a lot of misinformation out there about, and that's on-device messaging. A lot of satellite communication devices, and you can do this with the InReaches as well, is you tether them to your cell phone and then you can send a message just like you're sending a text message, but it goes through the satellite network. With all InReach devices, including the Mini, you can send messages directly from the device, including custom messages like, hey, I'm out here, it's cold, there's a lot of snow. I've ran into a lot of people who think that on-device messaging is only reserved for the larger InReach devices, but the Mini can do it. It's a little bit more cumbersome because you only have a few different buttons here. You don't have as many buttons for navigating the alphabet like you do on the larger InReaches. But what makes it not as tedious as a lot of people think is that it has a really good autocomplete function. So if I want to write a message, I can easily do that by jumping into the write a message. And I want to say it's very cold. So you can see there's the alphabet on the right side of the screen there. I use the buttons on the left side here to scroll down, B, and then I hold OK to get in there, and varies right at the beginning there. So very easy. I've written out some pretty long messages, 5, 6, 7 words, where I have used autocomplete for every single word, and it takes seconds. Then you still have the option of messaging directly from your phone. It is a lot easier because you have a full keyboard, so you can tether to the device, message from your phone, or you can use on-device messaging. I would personally never get a device that doesn't have on-device messaging capabilities. I've used a whole bunch of different satellite communication devices over the years for work as well as recreation, and there's been a few different times while I've been using it at work and my cell phone either ran out of batteries due to the cold, or there's been instances where I dropped it into a wetland and it didn't work anymore. And in those circumstances, if I didn't have an InReach, I would have lost two-way communication capabilities. Like I said, I think two-way communication is super important on a device. Being able to describe what kind of injury someone might have, your specific location for where rescuers or the helicopter need to go, as well as receive instructions, could be the difference between life and death when out in the backcountry. As well, if I'm unable to use the InReach because I'm unconscious or otherwise really hurt, then someone in my party or a friend, if I am traveling with other people, can use the InReach device and still send messages with rescuers without having to tether their phone to the device. Next up, let's talk about the size and weight of the device. This is the Garmin InReach Mini. It only weighs 100 grams, so it's super lightweight, and it's the smallest satellite communication device that has on-device messaging, and might be one of the smallest communication devices and SOS devices that's out there. Because it is so light and so small, I have no hesitation taking this out on any trip that I go into the backcountry on. I take it out on every single backpacking trip, as well as just day hikes and short trips out to the mountains. Something that comes up quite a bit is reliability with the messaging and SOS. The Garmin InReach uses the Iridium satellite network, which is used by pretty much every other satellite communication SOS device out there other than personal locator beacons and Spot. Spot has a separate satellite network that it uses, but it's not as reliable or as extensive as the Iridium network. So for all the satellite devices that use the Iridium network, there's not really an advantage between any of them. Some of them might have a different receiver on here, but other than that, you're going to be pretty much in the same boat. If you do have to send an SOS, then I think most satellite communication devices use the same service. It's called GEOS, and basically the SOS message goes out to GEOS and then they coordinate with emergency and search and rescue services. Something that's interesting is that Garmin recently bought GEOS, so they now control that aspect of the ecosystem. And while I don't think they're going to be going and removing services or features from their competitors, I do think there might be an opportunity for Garmin to introduce some additional features or services through GEOS that might not be available to the other satellite communication device manufacturers out there. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but Garmin may be a good option for the future because of that coordination between Geos and Garmin. Another cool feature is that my watch connects to the inReach and I can send an SOS device from my watch. So if my inReach is away from me, if something happens, like I get mauled by a bear and it rips my pack off and throws it away, and I'm laying there not really able to move, then I can send an SOS from my watch, not have to crawl to my inReach, and hopefully someone can come and rescue me and save the day. Now let's talk about some negatives of this little guy. First one, and it's mostly applicable to the inReach Mini, is battery life. The Mini is so tiny that the battery in here is really small, and you only get a handful of days if you are using it consistently, whereas with the larger devices, they have a much bigger battery and you'll get much better battery life without having to recharge it. You might not also like the on-device messaging system of the inReach Mini. The full-size keyboards on Spot might be more up your alley, but then you're dealing with all the issues that Spot has, and trust me, I've encountered all those issues using those devices in the field. But the larger inReach does have a bit of an easier system for sending messages, even though I really like the autocomplete on the inReach Mini. My biggest complaint with this device, more so than all those other ones, is that it still has micro USB charging. Almost all my devices now use USB-C, and I was really actually hoping for an inReach Mini update in 2021. I was hoping it was going to be announced this year, and it hasn't yet, but fingers crossed. But I'm hoping for an inReach Mini that has a bit of a better battery and USB-C charging. Another negative that I hear all the time is that the inReaches are more expensive than their competitors. And while the actual devices might be more expensive, the inReach costs $350 US, which is quite a bit more than the Spot, or I think the Zoleo as well. Bivy is about the same price. You are getting a little bit more functionality out of the inReaches, and I think for me, you're getting what you pay for. And when it comes to subscriptions, and yes, you do need a subscription in order to use these devices. If you don't have a subscription, then you can't send an SOS or messages with it. A lot of people think that the inReach has more expensive subscriptions, and for me and my use cases, that's not the case as well. So I have the cheapest inReach plan, which costs $12 US per month, and I'm on the annual contract. So if you're not on the annual contract, then bump that up by $3 to $15 a month. But that's still cheaper than a lot of the competitors that are out there. And with that plan, I get 10 custom messages that I can send out to anyone on my contact list, as well as I get unlimited preset messages. So you get 3 preset messages that you can send. I have starting the day, made it to camp or my car, and random check-in. And with those 3 messages, I probably send 30 to 40 a month. So if I had to be paying per message with some of the other plans that are out there, I'd be paying a lot more than $12 or $15, and a lot more than even what a lot of the competitors are charging for their monthly plans, which still are usually a bit more expensive at around $20. If you're in an emergency, an SOS device with two-way communication is going to make rescue more efficient, quicker, and safer for the rescuers based on the information that you can provide them. If that doesn't convince you that a satellite communication device is worth picking up, then go check out a video that I'll post up in the corner there, where I talk about 5 reasons that I like to use the Garmin inReach Mini, and there's probably a benefit in there that you have never considered before. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.